Good morrow, everybody, and welcome back to yet another issue of Hops Geek News, where we talk news about all things pop culture, essentially. We talk movies, sports even. We talk pretty much everything. I am one of your two co-hosts, Mash, here with the Hoppy Mommy. How's it going?
It's going good. I want to say good morning. I'm still on coffee. I don't know if that's allowed on this show, but I'm still on coffee.
I've got coffee in one, and I've got a beer in the other.
Nice. I thought about busting out I have a cold brew blonde ale, but
Oh.
I'm heading out on paddleboards after this. So I'm going to be doing enough drinking later. So I'm sticking with coffee now.
That makes sense. I figured I had this crowler from Loose Screw, my last one, the Mashed Maniac. It's probably my favorite one by them, and I figured if I didn't drink it today, it might not be good by the time I get to it on Thursday. And I also bought a growler of Black is Beautiful from Edge that I planned on drinking Thursday. Because Thursday,
Ooh.
Friday is basically like an Edge brewing kind of like I'm promoting the crap out of them, I guess. But,
You got to drink some Ivanhoe too, though.
oh, that's right. They are going to be on. Thank you for reminding me. Well, forget that. I'll just drink my crowler. Maybe tomorrow night. The Packers got moved. They were playing Monday night, but they got moved to later. So I'll probably just pop open their Black is Beautiful. It's a 32-ounce crowler. I tried to get the small one just because I knew I wasn't going to do a 64-ounce one of it. Because
Yeah,
it
that's
sucks.
a
I have no one to
commitment.
share with. So
Yeah. Well, my husband will share the anything hazy with me, but yeah, if I have anything dark, like the other day, I opened a barrel-aged beer for the basketball game, and I was on my own with that whole bomber, and it was 15%. So some of
to
it
be
got poured
fair,
out for the homies, but I drank most of it. It was
well,
good. It's just a lot of beer.
to be fair though, you kind of needed a drink of 15% to get through what the Heat are putting out on the court right now.
Okay, so about that, this morning my dad texted me this nice little meme. So in 2006, we took it all from the Mavericks, but we lost the first two games by like 24 points.
Oh,
So, of course, it says 2006 lost first two games by 24, won the next four. So this last two games we've lost by like 28. So of course I responded to him with Jim Carrey. So you're saying there's a chance.
well, I
So
hate to
there's a chance.
break it to you, but Shaquille O'Neal is not walking through that door like he was in
I know, and neither is
2006.
Dwayne Wade. But I think part of it though, and I hate blaming, games being lost on injured members, but Dragic and Bam were both doing great, and they keep saying Bam's coming back, and then I keep getting notifications he's not. And you don't want them to permanently hurt themselves. You want them to sit out if they need to sit out. But I mean, Dragic was playing beautifully, and I think he kind of just pushed himself too hard. So, I don't think either of them are playing later. So that's definitely gonna
He had
affect it.
kind of a freak injury. He tore his plantar fascia, which is I've had plantar fasciitis, and it sucks to wake up from. But like actually tearing the muscle on that foot, it's so weird. So I don't think he'll be back. And you never,
Yeah.
even if you're a fan or not a fan, you don't like the other team. I always hate when injuries happen, especially in a championship game, because
Mm-hmm.
you kind of want to play your best against the best, because that's But unfortunately, that's how sports are. Nothing is ever truly fair. And I like Jimmy Butler anyway, so if he did win it, I wouldn't be mad. I don't like Anthony Davis. I hate how he did the city of
Yeah.
New Orleans by
Yeah. No.
leaving them. So I don't like the Lakers anyways as a Celtics fan. But
Dwight Howard did that to Orlando.
yeah, and Dwight Howard did the same thing.
Yeah.
He like more
Yeah.
shady. He ran himself. So I don't care for Dwight Howard. Never have. Don't really care for Anthony Davis. And then LeBron. I like what he does off the court, but like on the court,
Right.
I'm just kind of like. Ugh. Which the Celtics are the only Eastern Conference team to bounce LeBron from the playoffs multiple times. Shout out to the C's. However, they have their own issues going on.
I don't know why I'm nodding because they've bounced us out before.
Yeah,
That was a long time ago.
Eastern Conference is always kind of like your same five teams, I feel like, and then it's just the same bottom feeder teams. The West has always been the better conferences, anyways.
Yeah, and they're always putting up higher points. They're always
Yeah.
ranked higher overall, but it's always interesting because they don't always win in the finals.
No,
So
it's
it's
not. And
yeah.
anything can happen. I mean, you got a couple days off to adjust your defenses, things like that. Anything. That's the beauty of sports. You get seven, potentially up to 7 games, and you got to win 4 of them, and anything can happen. So I am still pulling for the Heat, just because I can't stand the Lakers.
That is so funny though, because when we were in the finals, 2011 to 2014, everybody was rooting against us. And now everybody's rooting for us because they hate LeBron. But some people genuinely want the Lakers to win because of Kobe. And they even have the KB on the jersey. And it would be, a nice thing for his legacy that they won the year that he passed. But yeah, at the same time, I don't want LeBron to get another one. And I don't want Dwight Howard to ever get one because I feel like he intentionally goes to teams solely like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
well, this team's stacked. I'm going to go try to get a ring here. And I felt like, yeah, what he did to Orlando and to Stan Van Gundy was just dirty. But
Yeah, he can
all right,
never win it on his own. But
right.
yeah,
I
we
mean,
can talk.
he got them to the finals in '09 and lost in 5, but whatever. Okay, so what have you read or watched this week that
Yeah.
wasn't a Miami Heat
Anyways,
game?
anybody who doesn't want to hear us talk sports, we'll be branching off here soon enough to start our own NBA NFL podcast at this rate.
Right.
But yeah, I finally read the Wolverine issue 1 that you sent me. I got around to it. I kept starting to pick it up, and then something would happen, and it was just sitting here next to the computer, and I'm like, finally got to it. I thought it was really interesting. I have never really read a Wolverine or X-Men comic, so they have that the island that kind of is for mutants, and then now like the vampires are all amassing, so it's going to be like a mutants versus vampires kind of thing. And I think
Hmm.
that was pretty interesting. I like how violent Wolverine can be, just because when he's like slashing people's throats, things like that. So the fact that I've never picked up a Wolverine comic to this point is kind of surprising. But it was good.
His Yeah, it's his berserker rage.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it even I think gets a little better. I read I think a couple weeks ago the most recent one,
Mhm.
and um, but it was like when we were saying what we didn't like about the eye Wolverine, where he's a cyborg basically, is that
Yeah.
humanity part of him is not there, and I feel like this issue so far, or this comic book so far, has been a good representation of Wolverine and how even when he's trying not to be the good guy, he comes across as trying to do the right thing. And
Yeah.
of course, he's always, and you see it in the movies, where he's always hurting the ones he loves by trying to protect them, kind of thing. And he thinks he deserves all this punishment. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he always does have that. He feels like he deserves this like punishment, all this stuff. He should be alone, but at the same time, he's like a big softy deep down, and he really
he
does
is a
care.
big
And
softy.
that's honestly one of the good things I like about Wolverine is because he can be so vicious, but at the same time, he does ultimately care about all the students, all the mutants, all his friends, everything like that.
Right. And even all the way into, Old Man Logan and Dead Man Logan,
Hmm.
he's still, keeps part of that. He's more jaded in the older ones, but like
Yeah.
in Old Man Logan, like he goes, like, I don't know if you've read any of the old ones where it's like the wastelands and a lot of the Avengers are like dead, and like the Hulk, I guess the gamma ray went crazy in his brain, and then their generation is like all evil, and he goes and like kills a bunch of the Hulk people, but he saves the baby, and it's like, he wants to raise the baby kind of thing, and he's
Yeah.
going to do this kid right. So yeah, he's always got a little bit of
I
that.
haven't. So yeah. Other than that, I started watching spooky movies. Of course, I watched half of Beetlejuice last night. I fell asleep, obviously, partway through because we first watched the Babysitter Killer Queen. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. It's the sequel to the 2017 movie The Babysitter. It's about like a blood cult. Samara Weaving's in it. She leads this blood cult. They basically give themselves to the devil for whatever you want. Well, the kid that she's babysitting kills them all. Spoiler, but they're all back in this one, and then it was decent. It wasn't as good as the first one, but I still recommend watching it at least one time. Both of those movies, they're
And
kind
that's
of
on
like,
Netflix, you said?
yep, on Netflix. They're like your cheesy kind of. It's got Robbie Amell. He plays such a fantastic character in these movies because he's just like total bro jock, shirtless rage, and he's hilarious. It's got Bella Thorne. I never really heard of her, but apparently she was on Disney Channel a long time ago, and
Her name sounds familiar, but I can't picture
yeah, I
her.
know she was recently in some scandals involving OnlyFans, but
Oh,
she
okay,
scammed a bunch
yeah,
of people out of money.
and like ruined it for everybody else or
Yeah, now
something.
like everybody who
Okay.
actually needs it to survive. Yeah, so she ruined that. But it was a good movie. The main character, he's kind of like this awkward kid. Good. I recommend watching it. And then yeah, Beetlejuice, watched that, and I love that movie. I always forget that Alec Baldwin is in the movie because it doesn't look anything like him. He's actually like young and attractive. Gina Davis
Right.
is in it, and then Michael Keaton. I always forget that this is also in 1988 because he makes this movie and then he goes and comes out with
That's
Batman.
Batman.
So he's riding high at this point, and I always forget that this movie was that old. In my mind, it's a mid 90s movie for some reason, I guess, because that's when I first watched it for the very first time.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've been watching, and then of course, Boys. I watched that episode, which we'll talk about later.
yeah. Very mind-blowing episode. Um, but there's a little part on Beetlejuice where that land that they've like created of like a mini little place.
Hmm.
Jack Skellington, I guess, is in there. I don't know if you
Really?
knew that. So there's a little, yeah, clay figure of Jack on there or something.
Well,
So
I'm
I
gonna
love,
rewatch it again because I fell asleep. So, and I love that
yeah.
movie anyway. So I'm gonna end up rewatching it. I'm gonna be like looking out for that because I never knew that actually.
Well, what's funny is yesterday was my well, actually it was both of our daughters' birthdays, very random. So it was my oldest birthday
Hmm.
and we were going to get dinner and we're like, okay, you can control whatever we're listening to since it's your birthday. And so she was obsessed with Broadways. Apparently
Oh
Beetlejuice is a
yeah,
Broadway. So she
really?
put on all the music from the Beetlejuice Broadway, but they've I guess changed some of it and made some of the stuff more current. So some of the stuff in the songs is more relevant to today.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean,
Huh.
that's a musical I'd love to see.
I'd go see that musical. I like musicals. They're kind of, underrated. And of course, right now, one of the harder hit industries because you can't
Hmm.
really put on a musical or a play. It's different than a movie. But I've always wanted to see Wicked, things like that in musicals. I
Wicked
just
is
haven't been able
amazing.
to. Um,
Wicked, I'm super obsessed with Lion King, and I thought
oh
Wicked was
yeah.
better than Lion King. Wicked was the best musical I've ever seen. I didn't go see Hamilton though. My daughter went with my dad. I did not see that one.
I
I saw
don't
it on
get the
Disney
appeal for
Plus.
Hamilton. I guess
It
because I
is
haven't
good.
watched it yet. I just haven't watched it.
It is. I mean, I was not looking forward to watching it because my daughter plays it so much. I was sick of the songs before I even saw it. But when I watched it, it's actually really good. I mean, it tells a story of history and in a fun way.
Which is funny
Um,
because I'm such a history lover that I'm just like, I don't really know if I want to watch it. So I'm gonna get around to watching it just to give it a try.
yeah, no, it's worth watching. All right. Well, I didn't watch too much this week. I did start Schitt's Creek last night, and I
Oh,
watched SNL,
fantastic show! Schitt's Creek is such a
and
good
that's
show.
Catherine
Yeah,
O'Hare is also in Beetlejuice
and then
and
John
Nightmare.
Levy and
Yeah, and
American
Eugene, yeah,
Pie fans
Eugene
out.
Levy and
Eugene, that's
Daniel
what it
Levy.
was.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, it just actually didn't it? It just swept like all of the awards at the end
yeah.
or whatever it
And the
was.
new season just got put on Netflix
Yep. It's
yesterday,
the
I think.
final
So
season, isn't it?
yeah, it's the final season. So
Everything
that's what
good
I
must
was
end.
watching when you texted me, like, "Oh, can you record now?" And I'm like in the middle of the episode.
Be
I'm like,
like,
"Well, yeah, I
no.
can do that." But other than that, I started reading Boys Volume 2. I'm about halfway through it. It's getting hard to differentiate which is which because I'm reading and watching them at the
Hmm.
same time. So I start going back and forth. Like I forgot that Huey doesn't know Annie's Starlight yet. So
Yep.
whereas in the show he finds that out like immediately. And one of the things that's weird now is so dead soups in the comic can sometimes come back as zombies with like 3% brain function because apparently the
Ooh.
compound V will like repair them or regenerate them, but it doesn't regenerate their brain function
Right.
necessarily. So Lamplighter was killed when Mallory killed him after he killed the grandkids, but they have him in like a cell kind of thing as like a zombie and he's just completely deranged. So he's still like around. It's really weird. Um, but I thought that was the weirdest. And I'm wondering because Lamplighter. Oh, I can't talk about it yet. For those
Uh,
people who haven't seen it, we'll talk about that later.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what's going to happen with some of that. We'll see. Okay, so let's go to your breaking news before I
Um,
spoil something.
yeah, real quick, I actually spoiled myself as far as the comics go. I think they're going a different direction in the show, but I can't wait till you get to the part in the comics, and I can't talk about it until obviously you get there. But yeah, we'll get a little. We got a lot of news going on right now. A little bit of news coming from the Marvel world. We have Iman Vellani. I might have mispronounced that. She is going to be playing in Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, in the Miss Marvel Disney Plus show. She's never really been in anything. She worked with the Toronto Film Festival, so she did a lot of things with them. Yeah, she's gonna be playing Miss Marvel, which is it's pretty cool because Miss Marvel's a Pakistani American superhero. She's got the elastic abilities, things like that, and she was recently just brought to life on the Avengers video game, and I thought they did a fantastic job there. So I'm excited to see kind of her live action TV show. I think it is, I believe. Um, they don't have any dates or anything like that yet.
Yeah, there's no dates for anything, it seems like.
Yeah, nothing gets.
But when they do that Disney Plus show, the 616, where they go into the background of things, I think they're actually doing an episode on the woman that character was created
Oh,
after.
really?
She's actually like works at Disney. It sounds like it was a couple Middle Eastern women that like when they brought the idea, the one lady's like, Marvel's not going to approve that. They're not going to be okay with that. And I mean, just watching the clip for it or the trailer for that episode was really cool. So I think that'll be a cool episode to watch before Miss Marvel comes out.
Yeah, I think they were planning on wanting to film maybe this fall, but that's all so up in the air because you can't really do anything. Actually, unless you film in Georgia, because last night the Georgia Dogs game against Auburn, they literally had everybody in the stands like on top of each other and no masks. So Georgia's just the Wild West. And
Wow.
I know that's where a lot of Marvel films. So just go to Atlanta and film everything. Who cares? I
Yeah.
guess. But
Who
yeah,
cares? Like, yes.
it's all a made up hoax, according to some people. But Disney Plus is now introducing a group watch feature. You can sync it. Basically, it's not like you're on video. If you want to set it up on Skype, so where you sit your Skype next to you, you can pretend you're watching it with your friends. You basically just sync up the movie or TV show you're watching, and it syncs up to the other TV with all your friends, and you get to watch together, which may be a really cool feature for us if we ever decide to do a Marvel rewatch or even some of these TV shows, watch them together, kind of discuss, do some commentaries. I think that's just a result of the whole COVID pandemic. And it kind of made me think that I wonder why like Netflix, your other show or streaming services haven't tried to do something like this yet.
No, Netflix has it, but you have to be on the computer.
Oh, I watch it.
So
A lot of people do.
Have you tried it yet? Because I haven't tried it yet. I'm curious to see how it works
not.
in real time.
I have not. I will. I'm gonna probably have to give it a go here soon. I imagine, but I haven't tried it yet. I probably should. Maybe for Mandalorian, give it a go. Other than that, some more Marvel news. Kind of everybody was so starved for Marvel content, and now we're getting a lot of news all of a sudden. We have Jamie Foxx. You might have remembered his character Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield, which it wasn't a bad movie, but Jamie Foxx, basically you forgot the man's birthday and he turned supervillain. It was kind of crappy. Let's be honest. I was not a fan of his character at all. It was pretty just awful. Ugh. But yeah, he's apparently coming back in Tom Holland's next Spider-Man movie. Whether he comes back as Electro or they just introduce his character, they haven't really said. Hollywood Reporter, they confirmed it, and they actually were supposed to set to film this fall for a December 2021 release. Don't know if that's obviously going to happen because Regal Cinemas has decided that they are closing all their theaters in the United States and United Kingdom starting like Monday. So you pretty much just have AMC.
Which is going to be in the past by then, yeah.
Yes. By the time you listen to this,
it'll be October 5th.
Happened 2 days ago. But Regal Cinemas has just announced that they're closing all their theaters, which it's a bad time to own a movie theater because AMC also announced that they're going to be out of liquidity, however you pronounce that. They're basically going to be broke here in the next few months.
Out of cash, liquidity.
Yeah, they're going to be out of cash. So it sucks because movies is one of those things like I can watch it at home, but I prefer going to a theater for the experience. And now movie theaters are shutting down, closing. But yeah, we can hold. I don't want to go sit in a movie theater with other people, but it's just kind of a time where you can't go to concerts, you can't go to movies, but we can hold political rallies, sporting events with like thousands of people on top of each other, and it's shitty. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's all shitty. So what's this Birds of Prey?
Yeah, recently Birds of Prey came out a year ago, and they just got nominated for 5 People's Choice nominations, which if anybody even watches I don't. I feel like it's for old.
I didn't know.
I feel like it's for old women.
For old women.
But
they used to have Talk Soup. That was good.
They did, yeah.
I
think like what's his name? He
Joel
plays.
McHale.
No, yeah, they're Ryan Seacrest, and he used to host a show on there or something. I don't know. I feel like there's a time where we went through a Ryan Seacrest, like the Matthew McConaughey. It was a Ryan Seacrest songs where he was everywhere. But yeah, they're nominated. He's on iHeartRadio.
He has a show with the Kelly it used to be Kathy Lee and Regis. Now it's Kelly and Ryan Seacrest. I've never seen it with the two of them. But...
that's right, Michael Strahan. It used to be Kelly and Michael Strahan, and then I guess he left. So
but then he went to ABC.
Anyways, it got nominated for Best Movie, Best Action Movie, Best Female Movie Star, which is Margot Robbie. Best Action Movie Star, again, Margot Robbie, and then Best Soundtrack. I thought the movie was good, but I wouldn't give it like best movie or best action
Right.
movie. I thought it was
I mean,
just
it
a
was,
decent movie.
yeah. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good, but I thought the best line was when the girls were all having the fight scene, and she's like, "My hair's in the way." She's like, "Do you need a hair tie?" It drives as a female, it drives me nuts when you see these women fighting with this long hair. And it's like, that's in your way. How is that not in your way? Like, pull your hair
Right.
back.
That's like
Like,
in all the comic books or movies, you're right. A lot of them they're fighting like their costume is their hair is down. And I've always thought about that. It's like, doesn't that kind of get in the way?
it would totally
You're just
100% get in
the
the way.
wind's blowing on top of these buildings and you got your hair in your face and you can't see the villain.
Right. Like on WNBA, they're not playing basketball with their hair down. Like
No,
it's up. Plus
not at
it'd be
all.
easier to grab too. So I watched it I think only like a month and a half ago, but it was good. It was enjoyable. I was hoping it would be better. But no, it was fun, but I really
Yeah.
liked that line.
Yeah, I thought Ewan
But yeah.
McGregor was really great. Just he's great for everything
Yeah.
he does, but he really hams it up in that movie. So I'm kind of sad that, spoiler alert, he dies in it because I was like, hey, I think his character would be great to come back because he played it really just hammy for a comic book movie. He knew what movie he was in, and then
Oh,
they
and
blow him up.
the way he died, I don't know if they'd be able to bring him
They
back.
blew him up, so I don't think he's ever coming back.
But he was fun to hate in that movie. He was a good bad
He
guy.
was, yes, he was fantastic. Yeah. Other than that, what kind of news? What kind of news did you find?
So Shang-Chi, the movie is going to be coming out next year, hopefully. But they recently released a comic that's going to go back into some of the family history of that. So if you want
Ooh,
some background before the movie comes out, that has hit the
yeah, the
comic book
actor for
shops.
it is like really pumped to do it, and if you follow him on Twitter, he kind of seems like the right fit for the role. I think he's just a funny kind of guy, and I think he'll play it really
Right.
well.
Well, outside of Danny Rand and Iron Fist, I trust MCU's casting. Well, and all of Inhumans, other than those two things.
I still
But
don't
yeah, the movie comes out
think
next July.
that the guy who played Danny Rand, he didn't get a fair shake because in the first season he had to like learn martial arts in 3 weeks basically, and the filming was a mess. So if they were to do it again, I think it would be better. But Iron Fist is neither here nor there.
If you go back to what is it, our second episode, you can hear my rant on Danny Rand. But like even when I go back and watch Game of Thrones now, I feel like it's almost a little ruined for me the scenes he's in because now it's just like I am the immortal Iron Fist.
He
Ugh.
just walks up to Cersei. He's
Okay,
like, "I am
so
the immortal Iron Fist."
right, she's like that means
She's like, "Okay, cool, I
nothing to
guess."
me. Um, right. I don't play Fortnite, but Wolverine is now in Fortnite for those with battle
I
passes. I don't
feel
know
like
what that
10-year-olds play
means, but I
Fortnite.
thought it might be
Personally,
worth
do
mentioning.
not. But hey, if you're 10 and listening to this, you get Wolverine now.
Okay. So well, it's Wolverine news, so I felt obligated to share it. So Disney is actually working on a live action Lion King 2 that's going to be based on some of Mufasa's origin story. And that's
Ooh,
pretty much my only news. I didn't really get too much
Mufasa.
news this week.
Mufasa,
But
Mufasa, Mufasa.
yeah, we don't, we actually named our cat that because of that line. Our cat was named, and I told my mom not to name the cat
Say it
Mufasa because
again.
the cat's gonna die, and that's why they named him Mufasa. And this stupid cat only lasted 2.5 years. Here's to Mufasa.
Pour one out for Mufasa. We lost a lot of homies.
He was a cool cat too. He had an extra toe. He was a Hemingway cat.
Mm.
But yeah, that's my news.
We do have a little bit of news. One little last piece of news. It's a promotion. I'm gonna plug it here real quick. Friday, 2 days from now, when you're listening to this, on October 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you have checked us out, if you have checked out Hop Heroes podcast, you know that they are also big on comic books and beer. Well, we are going head to head in the first ever Super Hop Smackdown, where myself, or I should rather say I'm like a Jekyll and Hyde. I got Hop Hogan is making an appearance, and then Hoppy will be there, and we will be taking on Jordan and Zach, as JR is the moderator on our Hops News Facebook and Hops News YouTube. It's going to be live. We're going to be raising money for the American Red Cross and the victims of the wildfire. But come watch us drink a bunch of Oktoberfest beers and come watch us try to make trivia. And then you can realize how much we really do not know about anything that's to do with comic books. So it's going to be a really good time. We're going to drink beers. It's going to be just a fun time to benefit some really good things. And if you've checked out our Instagram and stuff, you've seen us talk a lot of shit so far. And that's been my favorite portion is my wife. She literally it makes her uncomfortable when I throw on the mullet and the glasses. So she like, I don't want to do this. So I've had to like film them all myself. Um, I'm just having fun with it. I'm going to ham it up so hard, and we'll be dressed up as characters. And yeah, so a little promotion there. October 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hops News, Facebook and YouTube.com/Hops News. We will be coming at you live. And then that episode will also be airing the following Wednesday on both Hop Heroes and on our episodes. So yeah.
Yes, so that'll be fun to do it live too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
on
really
Hops
cool
News
guys.
Facebook
Really
page.
cool guys.
So.
They suck right now. Screw those guys. But on the outside, they're really cool. A lot of fun. But yeah, aside
Yeah,
from
I have
that,
my.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, now our main topic, spooky shows.
Yes,
Because it's October.
it is October. We are full spooky. I really had to just hold off and wait. We're having like a little Halloween party, but it's all
Soiree.
few people on my not on my birthday, but kind of there's just people I work with. We're around each other anyways, so we're kind of just, hey, come over, dress up. We're gonna have a little Halloween costume contest. Um, Carrie wants us to go as Dacula and the mom from Hocus Pocus, because not a lot of people may be dressed like that. We were gonna go Bill and Ted, but I think
Wait, is she gonna dress as like Madonna?
she is. She's gonna dress like that, and then I'm
Oh
gonna
my
be
gosh, that's
Dacula,
awesome.
I think, and so that's gonna be our
Gotcha.
costumes. And so it's been really hard holding off. We started decorating finally, and some spooky shows. Yeah, what were some spooky shows that you would go to this time of year?
Well, The Haunting of Hill House, I think we both listed that. That was great. I think it came out 2 years ago. It was a TV series,
Mm-hmm.
one season on Netflix. Great show, because I'm not into the whole just get scared. Like, I don't like Saw or anything. I don't like to see people
Yeah,
tortured. But
let's
so
see.
when I watch scary movies, I like mystery.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was great, and they're releasing a new season next week that's going to be a totally different storyline, but some of the same
Haunting
actors and the same
on
writers.
Bly Manor, was it? Is it called?
Yes.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I like your slashers, the old slasher movies. I love, like your
Because they're
Freddy, Friday the
cheesy.
13th,
Yeah.
your Halloween. The
Mike
very
Myers.
first one is like one of my favorites, and then Scream is really good. But I don't like the ones that just kind of, they make a horror movie just to like get gory for no reason that doesn't add to the plot or anything like that. And then Haunting on Hill House, it was really kind of psychological in their heads, and the way it ended, I thought it was a really well done show. So I can't wait to kind of see what they do with this one as well.
Yeah, and a lot of like twists, but like everything was answered in the end. So you weren't thinking like what happened, but while you're watching it, you're still thinking about the show after the fact. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, what is this from? Why is this? But they answered everything, and I absolutely love that. So it was creepy. There was some storyline, but yeah, it was about a family, and the mom basically starts to kind of lose it because they move into these houses, they renovate them, and then they sell them. So they move into this really old big house. And of course, it's got like that dumb waiter thing where, goes into the basement, and,
Yeah.
all these things are happening. And the neighbors start saying things to them about what had happened in the past. And I don't want to ruin anything because it's great. Anybody who hasn't seen it that loves watching Halloween shows or just anything scary, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, go and binge watch that. It's not,
I
it
love
wasn't
the
very
story
long.
with Nell, the little girl. That was the most shocking and the best story, I thought.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize the young dad was Elliot from E.T.
I
until
didn't
I was
either.
watching E.T. recently.
Well, because like I feel like that's the last time you ever saw him. I'm sure he's in a bunch of things.
Yeah.
But you just never really. It's like Drew Barrymore. She pops up in ET as a kid, but you always forget that until like, oh shit, that's right. I can go back and revisit these movies, and you're like, oh my god, there it is.
Well, she never like stopped acting, so I always remembered she was in there. But yeah, I never felt like I never saw the dad again. But then he did a really great Christmas commercial this last year with E.T. Did you see that, where it was something about, like E.T. revisits, and Elliot's kids are out there and they meet him, and then Elliot goes running out and hugs E.T. Anybody who hasn't seen it, Google E.T. Christmas commercial.
It was I do remember. I think I saw it once.
And so I was like, I could think. Yeah, they did a good one with Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone last year too.
Oh my god, yes, that was like my favorite one, where he's just like the Google or whatever it was.
Yeah, Google Home.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
like Google, turn on Operation whatever, and the whole house turns on. But I had my I try to do a good job making sure my kids see the classics. So this summer we put
Yes.
on ET for my 8-year-old, and which I had to like find the DVD and like dust it off. I had like the anniversary version from 2002, and she then wanted to watch the extras, and so we like YouTubed extras, and that's when we came across the Christmas commercial, and I was like, oh shit, this dude looks familiar. But let's see, some other spooky shows. There's The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
I'm behind on that, but that first premiered on Halloween night. I think it
that's
was
right.
2010.
Yeah, I
So,
think almost 10 years ago. Now it's premiering tonight, and it's the final season.
hmm
I stopped
it is
watching.
the final season, and they're supposed to still have the Rick movie. I did stop watching too, but I do intend to finish that. That's something I've gone so far. I read all the comics. I'm gonna finish it. I just haven't
Yeah,
done it.
it's the
But
Whisper Wars.
I mean, I used to absolutely love that show.
They're doing the Whisper Wars.
Yeah, and in the comics, the Whisper Wars are pretty quick. I loved how they ended the Whisper Wars in the comics. That was one that, like, next time I went to the comic book shop, I was like, I did not see that coming, and they're like, right? Um, but but yeah, they seem to be dragging it out. I'm not sure why, because there was more storyline in the comic that was very interesting that they could
Mhm.
do in the show. Maybe they're saving that for the movie. I don't know. Um, but what I loved about Walking Dead is I feel like before Walking Dead, I really didn't like zombie movies.
Right.
And when I first started watching it, I watched 3 episodes and then I would have nightmares about
Oh
zombies. And they were
man.
scary. And then I started watching it again. And what's funny is like I would still have dreams about zombies, but I wasn't scared of them anymore. It was more just like an inconvenience. Like it was like asking my husband, can you just walk outside with me so that I don't have to kill any zombies? It was like my dreams were evolving with the characters and how they
Yeah.
felt about the zombies.
I uh
But
I I've always loved zombies. My one of my like favorite zombie movies is Night of the Living Dead, the black and white kind of version. That is one I will always it's so cheesy and kind of bad, but I mean it was for the time it was great. And I've always been invested in zombies, and then you had Dawn of the Dead, and then Zack Snyder remade Dawn of the Dead. So that was a really good movie. And
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is amazing. Oh yeah, we'll talk about all these kind of when we do like our favorite Halloween movies. But Shaun of the Dead was probably one of the better zombie movies if you're looking for like comedy mixed with it, because it was fantastic. So, but I will say that Walking Dead really started the zombie craze that we've seen, particularly in
Hmm.
like the early 2010s, because everybody once the show started was all about zombies, and then we had all these things come off of it. But
It was a zombie show that never said zombie.
yeah, that's very true. They never actually did. I read there's a lot of good books out there that are centered around zombies too that I recommend. I'll have to get together and compile like a little list to put out there, because there are a lot of, I've read a bunch of them just because I'm kind of that nerdy kind of guy who likes to read books like that.
I'm gonna compile a list of all the things that they called the walkers in Walking Dead.
Ooh.
It's like walkers,
Yeah,
lame brains. What they called them so many, and you would meet somebody else and they would have a new name for them.
yeah,
I mean, walkers was the most, but they called them the dead. I don't even remember. Now I can't remember any of them. But there was like 25 different things they called them.
right.
Um, so the only other, I guess, spooky show that I really watch regularly, and I've mentioned it many times on the show, is Supernatural. And I have a friend that actually recently started watching it. She's the one that I eventually convinced to watch all the MCU movies, and now she's on
Mhm.
season 3 of Supernatural. And in the beginning, you have standalone shows, and they were kind of, each show was one story, and then they would move on. But now they have like longer storylines, but they'll still go back to having like one show where there's like a ghost story or a vampire
Right.
story or a werewolf story, but they're never exactly what they seem. There's always something else to them. And one of the things I love about that show too is there's tons of Easter eggs. In fact, my daughter had an episode on recently, and they make a Doctor Who reference to a Cyberman.
Really?
So that's fun. And there's Star Wars references regularly. Oh yeah, they even had a picture. He like held it up. It was like a conspiracy theory, and he's like, "Well, I think this is what it was," and it was a Cyberman on it, and it said Cyberman attacks or something. And because there's also a lot of the same actors. Like one of the main actors, Crowley, he was on an episode of Doctor Who.
Hmm.
Um, so you see a lot of those different actors go back and forth.
Right.
Well, between the CW in general, you see a lot of them, and they even make Doctor Who references because Rory was on Legends
Yes, he
at the
was. He
beginning.
was. Yeah, he was Arthur.
Yeah, and I've heard even Constantine made a Doctor Who reference in the recent show. or the recent episode, because he's on there now. But I mean, it's a great show. They make fun of themselves all the time. They do slapstick when possible, and then, like, there's an episode that's all about like this rabbit's foot that is good luck if you're holding it, but the second you lose it, it's bad luck. The slapstick in that episode is absolutely hilarious. And then there's even an episode where an angel sends them to an alternate reality where they're actually themselves. So these actors are playing Sam and Dean pretending to be themselves. Like it's just really funny. And they like go to the real world, and but they're still Sam and Dean, but they're total.
Right.
They're like, well, who would watch this show about our lives? And the other guy goes, well, according to this girl, not many people do. So they even make fun of their own shitty ratings. And then there's an episode where an angel's watching porn, and he's so confused. He's like, I don't understand what's going on between the pizza man and this woman. So yeah, and they even make fun of the fan fiction in the show. I mean, it's hilarious.
Very self-aware kind of show, yeah.
Yes,
Which is
very
surprising.
self-aware.
I've never actually watched it. I mean, my wife, she's watched it. I just never got around to watching it. So maybe eventually I'll sit down. I'm just waiting on another deployment, and I'll sit down and watch all the seasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of seasons.
There's like, what, 15, 16, something like that? Because they stopped it for a little while and then brought it back, right?
Yes, it comes back this week. They're, I think it's final 7 episodes, and that's wrapping up season 15.
Oh, man.
But the beginning of season 15 and all the seasons that they've already aired are all on Netflix. So
Right.
I got into it when I was pregnant with my last kid, because it was like, I need a show that's going to last me a while, because I feel like utter garbage.
Right.
And it had 1 million episodes.
It's like, hell yeah, here we go.
Yeah, and there's some really spooky ones, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I like the supernatural kind of element to things. I enjoy, and I always see the memes and things like that. So that's why I'm surprised that I guess I've never. This like some of those shows you always think, oh man, I'd love that, and then you just forget about it or don't get around to watching it because there's so much content out there these days.
Right, but yeah, there is even an episode where some guy has mind control powers, and he's like, dude, you have Jedi powers? Like, and he totally even said at some point, he goes, these are not the droids you're looking for, or aren't the droids. Yeah. So a lot of good pop culture references.
So obviously we've mentioned Hill House. One of my ultimate guilty pleasures, it's not like spooky in a sense of, oh my God, I'm scared, but I absolutely love like Halloween Wars, Halloween Baking Championship, all the baking shows that are like seasonal themed. I love the Halloween ones because, yeah, they're baking and everything like that, but they have to like put together these extravagant like displays. So you have like a little bit of food that they have to taste, but then they're building like these sets that are massive. They weigh like a few hundred pounds, and it's just all like cake and things like that. It's a contest. And actually, for Halloween Wars, the guy who hosts it, he was the main character on Mean Girls, and that's kind of what he does now. He was the one that Lindsay Lohan was going after the whole time. Yeah, he hosts.
Oh, okay, the one she was going after. I was okay, because one of the dudes actually went to my high school. I didn't know him, but I was gonna give.
No, yeah, it's the one who's like.
Yeah, yesterday was Mean Girls Day, October 3rd.
It was, and that's what I thought, because I was watching and I was like, hey, it's October 3rd, and we're watching him. He's on Halloween Wars, and I think they even made like a reference to Mean Girls because they kind of do, because that's the only thing this guy is known for. I mean, he's been in a bunch of other movies, but the one and only Mean Girls from like 2003. Poor guy, but. Yeah, those shows are really great just because the artistic, they have, your makeup designer, things like that. They come on and they judge it because it's as much as a contest of doing makeup and design and things like that as it is baking. And I know, I just love all these kind of baking shows. Those are kind of things that I live for. And then Netflix, it's hard to really get into shows that they put out. However, I thoroughly loved the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was what it was called. It was your Sabrina, but it was really kind of twisted, and it wasn't gory or anything like that, but it's a different take on. I love Sabrina the Teenage Witch as well. It's such a cheesy kind of like family show, whereas this one's much darker. It's got all the characters that you know and love. However, like she goes to a school for like demons, they worship the devil. It's pretty dark, but it's not dark to a point where like you can't watch it and it's like, oh God, what is this? It's just a different take on Sabrina. But of course, after season 3, which really was a really great season, they went ahead and canceled it, which kind of sucks because I was really getting into it. And I loved the show, and that's just kind of Netflix's MO. Is I was really into Santa Clarita Diet. If you haven't seen that, Drew Barrymore becomes a zombie, and they did 2 seasons, and then they left a cliffhanger, and then all of a sudden Netflix is like, nope, we're canceling it. So
Yeah, that was Santa Clarita Diet too.
yeah, it was, and it was a fantastic show. You had the one guy, I can't remember his name. He always gets confused with Josh Duhamel to me, the guy who plays like
Yes, yes,
Brendan
they
Ferguson.
both of them look the
I
same.
always
Yeah.
confuse those two, but it's that guy. He played in like Lawless or whatever that show was. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Fantastic actor. He was in the Crazies. That's what his one of the movies was. Crazies. It kind of is a different take on zombies, I guess. But yeah, it just sucks because they canceled that after 2 seasons. So anything that goes on Netflix, it's hard for me to really get into show wise, anyways,
Yeah.
because you get
Right.
invested two,
If it's
three
their original
seasons.
material, yeah.
Yeah, they just go ahead and cancel it. So baking shows, Sabrina, both versions of Sabrina, and then Haunting Hill House. Those are kind of the spooky shows that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, Haunting Hill House for sure. And like I said, like with Supernatural, since I've seen it all, I'll even put it on randomly during Halloween just because I like to have something spooky on. I'll also do that with Nightmare. Nightmare's been on probably a
That's
good
one of
20
those.
times
Pretty
already
much
this year.
run from now through Christmas is what Nightmare is going to
Yes.
be playing for me. I can't
Yep.
wait. I haven't watched it yet this season, but I'm probably going to watch it before our next episode because I think our next episode we're going to be talking about it.
Yep. I actually have a Jack Skellington bathing suit on because I'm going to go straight to paddleboarding after this.
Going
I
straight.
don't mess around.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than
Yes.
that,
So shall we give the warning?
spoilers. Yes. If you
You
haven't
haven't?
watched the latest season of The Boys, this is kind of the penultimate to set you up for the finale, which will be taking place on Friday. It's been a
Can't believe it already.
fast eight episodes. I know we watched the first 3 came out at once, and then every week after that, so it kind of flew by. So this is your last chance. If you haven't seen it, it was pretty
Episode 7.
mind blowing. This episode was, so I'd leave now.
The most mind blowing.
It was. So that was your chance. If you're gone, you're gone. If you're still here, then we're going to talk about it. And so this episode kind of starts with Starlight, her and her mom. They get captured. Annie goes to meet with her mom, and her mom basically like gave their stuff away, like, hey, we're here. And so Black Noir busts in and knocks her out and captures them both. So they're put up. And then this takes us to Huey and them are still at Mallory. They're all with Mallory and Lamplighter. He's just watching porn viciously, like
soup porn.
She's super into it. Like you see a Homelander porn where he's like the cuck, and it all circles back around because then Huey's basically like, do you want to be the cuck or do you want to like be the one who fucks
be the
and it's like, oh my god, it was what the hell are we watching? But he's just like watching, and then Huey has to sit there and watch it because he has to babysit Lamplighter while Butcher goes to Vogelbaum's house.
Or go see his dad.
Yeah, he goes to see his dad, which his dad was actually
went to the
king of Gondor in Lord of the Rings. So his dad plays an asshole all the time because he's an asshole in Lord of the Rings, and he's an asshole here. And then Butcher's doing that, and the other Mother's Milk and them kind of go off to do their thing, and Huey finds out Starlight was captured because they announced that Starlight's a traitor. Homelander and Stormfront show up, announce it to everybody, and so Huey goes on a daring mission with Lamplighter. 42B is kind of the floor where Lamplighter says she's being held, and turns out that he only went there because he wanted to see his statue and
kill himself in
front
of the statue.
Yes, he lights himself on fire and kills himself.
You know, for a brief second, I thought maybe he wasn't committing suicide. Maybe that was part of the plan, because I thought maybe he would be like fire resistant.
I'm kind of surprised he wasn't, because you would think fire powers he would be, right?
Right. I mean, his hand definitely wasn't. I think that's why Huey was able to take his hand to use it to unlock things. But what I was saying before that I had to stop myself because I didn't want to spoil anything was I'm wondering if he will regenerate and come back as like some dumbass zombie.
I feel like I don't know if they're gonna do that. Maybe.
I feel like they should seize the opportunity but then immediately end him. I don't think there's any use of keeping him around.
Agreed.
But if he were to just like come back for like a second and then somebody just like chops his head off just as like a nod to the comics, I think that would be good. You know, like they had Terror for a second.
Yeah, that'd actually be a really good idea. I kind of hope they do that. Just his story kind of ran its course, but just to kind of bring him back, yeah, that's a good idea actually.
But so the whole I like that Becca went back to Butcher at the end. So we needed, you knew she
Yeah.
was gonna do that, but that whole thing is like she needed to play nice and she wasn't playing nice. This was inevitable.
No, yeah, so Stormfront and Homelander show up and they're like, Dad has a new girlfriend and
Right.
he's a Nazi and crazy and all that. And
But it's okay because you're white and you have light eyes and you look like
right.
dad.
He basically, his whole plan is to turn the son against Becca. And, I get he made a good point to where I was sheltered. I was told lies my whole life and look at how I turned out. So that was actually a really good point.
I know. When you agree with
Um,
Homelander parenting, it's like, what's
yeah,
going
you're
on?
sitting there, you're like, oh
You did
man,
make a good point.
that's a really good point. But at the same time, he's basically aligned himself
Totally
with
evil.
Nazis, and yeah, he's evil. So they show him real life, like, hey, this is life outside of this little bubble you're in. Your mom's been lying. So they basically take him, and now the son is gone, hates Becca, and now she's in desperate times because she only did everything for her son because she cared about him so much, and now she doesn't have him anymore.
This was inevitable.
It
Well,
was,
I mean, what was?
it was.
I
At
mean,
some point, he was going to get older and ask questions.
yeah, and she had to have known that was going to happen, and she had to have known that the fact that he was still being, protected by Vout or whatever, like that, it was inevitable that they had a reason for doing that. Like, why didn't they just put her in some little town in, I don't know, Nebraska and just forget about her?
That's the interesting thing because Vought is the one who basically hid them away. So you can't be mad at her necessarily because I don't think she wanted to live this life. They're the ones
But I think
who.
she's been naive.
Yes, she played it dumb. She was dumb the whole way through. Yeah, so
She should have gone with Butch. Well,
we'll see what happens. I obviously her and Butcher. She's gonna go to Butcher and things. I know in the next episode there's some. Hey, lots of blood. You see Homelander falling to the ground with blood covering him. So this brings me to the next point. Huey, Annie breaks out because they're like, hey, somebody's in here. She takes the light, busts out of prison. Then Black Noir sees her, beats the shit out of her. I didn't realize Black Noir had that kind of power. Like I knew he was strong, which this kind of there's a spoiler in the comics at the end. I can't spoil it yet, but it makes a lot of sense if this is to be how they would go with it. It kind of makes sense, which we'll get to there. When you get to that point, we can talk about it. For his strength. Anyways, and so he beats her up, and then Queen Maeve, who was off banging multiple dudes because her girlfriend left, and she basically told Ashley, like, have some humanity for once in your life about the whole thing, because she's just worried about the image. And Maeve,
right, and that was warranted.
Yeah, and so she chokes out Black Noir and then shoves an almond joy down his mouth, and
that was awesome, especially because Annie loves them.
Yes, and she's like, his weakness? Did you just shove an almond joy in his mouth? She's like, yeah, he's allergic to nuts, and she kicks his EpiPen away. So Black Noir is obviously not dead. I don't think he's dead, but it was interesting that he was actually scarred and everything like that. So I wonder if something happened to him and that's he's mute and because he maybe got burned at some point. But yeah, he's allergic to nuts. But this also means that Black Noir probably heard Maeve while he was choking on the ground, and now he kind of knows that Maeve. So I think my theory is the next episode she's going to try to blackmail Homelander, and he's going to kill her. I think she dies next episode because her story's almost run its course. I think she's going to die next episode. I think so. It's either going to be Stormfront or Maeve who die, or maybe both. Maybe both die. They get into a big fight, and maybe they both die because you see Maeve, the female, and Starlight beating. They're all teaming up against Stormfront. So the secret gets out about Maeve, obviously, and we'll see what happens. And like I said, Homelander in the trailer, he's
I thought that too. Like Black Noir now knows.
Yeah, but I almost wonder, like, Black Noir.
Well, I think if Stormfront were to go, he does seem like he's on his own.
Yeah,
but I wonder though, like if they were to kill Stormfront, I feel like Homelander would lose any shred of decency he has and just go full like Frank Castle on everybody.
So that's so I don't
know if
think
that's the best
maybe
idea for them to kill Stormfront.
They mess up Stormfront pretty bad, and then to save Stormfront, Homelander kills Maeve, and that's why he seems so distraught in the trailers, because like he had to do something he didn't want to do because he cares about Maeve. Yeah, she kind of ultimately is a traitor, but he does care about her, so maybe it's something he didn't want to do, and he also doesn't want to kill his. He does, but doesn't want to kill his own soups and friends and things like that.
But he also killed the babysitter in the end of the last season. What was her
Yeah,
name again?
that's true.
Don't
He
fuck
didn't.
with the babysitter.
That is very true. He did kill her. So it's one of those weird things. We'll see. This is going to be. I know in the trailers for the next episode they pretty much go all out and like Homelander's cutting up Vought soldiers because they have the V and the Vought symbol on their arms. He's slicing them in half with his lasers. And then you see Butcher in that same cabin. So there's a lot of things next episode. I think they're all actually going to go head to head, which I honestly hope at this point, because you can't keep having the soups who turn sides fight your battles. I wonder if they're going to introduce Compound V to save one of their lives. Maybe one of them get hurt, and then they hit them with some Compound V to save their lives, and then that's how they get powers and kind of in line with the comics.
Right. One of the things I thought was interesting was when Stormfront said to Homelander's son Ryan, you're the first born with superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me think, okay, maybe her daughter didn't have any, and anything like that. But I also thought that Homelander was going to be like, oh, I'll put a baby in you when she was looking at that baby, and so he's like, oh, here, I have a ready-made kid for you.
Here you go. It's already ready. And
right. But I think that the fact that he looks just like Homelander and everything, yeah, she's invested now.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They're quickly cutting her out, man.
They are
cutting her out.
And then
Becca.
Also it was little, I think, so obviously at the end Butcher basically goes full serial killer, like I'm gonna kill your sister, your daughter.
He wouldn't do
kids.
that. Yeah.
He wasn't, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
Vogelbaum doesn't know, and so he gets him to go and actually talk at the hearing. So he rolls in there, he's about to talk, and then everyone's heads start to explode.
It was like random people too, because there's people in the audience and people that were like in Congress.
Like everybody's heads just start exploding, which I think, calling back, how the church leader was going to meet with the dude from Vought. I think the church is behind the exploding heads. I feel like they're helping Vought in some way, because they turned on Eagle out of nowhere, and then the Deep was basically like, yeah, no, he sucks. He's such a shitty human being. Screw that guy. Yeah, he's brainwashed, and A-Train's just kind of like, what the hell, man? Like, A-Train just wants to get back in the 7 because he wants money.
There's something in the Fresca.
There is.
Yeah.
So I think the church is behind the head exploding. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get an answer next episode.
Yeah, because they got to start connecting the church and the 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's got to be something there, but
we're definitely gonna get answers.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Deep is like the most weakly emotional person.
Oh,
he's like Vader.
Awful. He is. There's not a lot to him. And so I feel like maybe he's gonna die at some point, but I feel like he is anyways, because he is so weak. But maybe he sacrifices himself, and that's like his character payoff.
I was thinking that maybe he'll sacrifice himself for a whale or something.
Yeah,
that's how he should go down.
So we'll see. We have the finale, one last episode, and then who even knows when the next season is gonna come out, because I don't think they were able to film it yet, or it's not like the Mandalorian where they film all in like a closed set for the most part. They film a lot on locations, and so we'll see. I can't wait for this episode. It sucks because it's the finale, but there's so many questions that I think we're going to get answered.
Yeah, I hope so, because I'm sure they'll leave it with a huge cliffhanger. But I am very excited for season 3, especially because they're bringing Soldier Boy and Jensen Ackles. So I'm very much so looking forward to seeing him. But yeah, so we know they've already started casting, but I don't think they've started filming.
Yeah, I don't.
But you notice a lot of shows are like Saturday Night Live was in person last night. So they're doing things, and Chris Rock made a joke in his monologue. I've had more things, or I haven't had this much stuff up my nose since I shared a room with Chris Farley. So they're testing these actors every day and stuff. So I think a lot of places are getting back to filming.
Well, I think that they're seeing sports kind of, they're testing on the reg, and it's kind of working for the most part. I mean, NFL's had.
It's working for the NBA.
It's working for NHL. Had 0 confirmed cases throughout the entire bubble, which good on them.
Oh, they did
NBA,
okay.
Yeah, they did.
So the bubbles are working though.
Yes, the bubbles are working, and where you will probably see a lot of these films, like Saturday Night Live, TV shows where they film in a closed area. Mandalorian does it as well. Maybe we see movies kind of move to this, because then you're able to test constantly. You're in this kind of bubble area. So I think that's kind of going to be how things get filmed for the foreseeable future. And it's working as long as you have negative tests.
Right. But you also, it's like these actors and actresses have to commit to like, okay, I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to see this
Yeah.
person. I'm not going to do that. So, I mean, it's a
But
huge commitment and sacrifice, but it's something we're all doing no matter
if you're
what
getting
you're
paid
kind of in
millions of
right now. So,
dollars to make a movie, I know there's a lot
suck it
more.
up, Buttercup.
That's my thought process. Yeah, it sucks. You're kind of enclosed in these areas, and coming from a place where like I've been stuck in middle of nowhere for X amount of time, and I get paid shit compared to these guys. Like, come on.
Right.
If you can spend a few months filming a movie, filming a TV show, and all you got to do is maybe not go out to a bar or a club, things, be smart, then I think you should be fine. I'd do
Right.
whatever for $1 million, but that's just I'm.
Well, I think the biggest thing though is, and you had to make this sacrifice as well, is the parents that can't see the kids regularly, and you even saw that
Right.
in the NBA bubble. They weren't letting families in until the end, and they still had to quarantine
Yeah,
beforehand.
exactly.
Um, so I think that's the hardest thing is honestly on the kids.
But if
But
I think if they're able to figure out a way to where some families they can put you up in like a hotel in this location with your family, then it could work. But then
yeah,
again, I
well, I
don't make
like
the
they made a
rules.
joke on right on SNL. They're like, if Adam Silver could just take that bubble and just slowly expand it.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's perfect because we're 35 minutes from the ESPN Center. Like, just keep it. We'll be in that bubble real quick.
yeah,
I
exactly.
like
Just
it.
slowly. Well, now Florida has no rules
Yeah.
anyway, so
A lot of places are voluntarily having rules for themselves, so that's good. But
that's
yeah, there's
yeah.
yeah,
Well, now
it's Florida.
half our White House has COVID now, so we'll see what happens.
Who knows? Who
Um,
knows?
yeah. Is there
Um,
any last words? What's your final words?
no last words. Jeez, it's getting real spooky this month. No, I guess
Speaking of
next week you'll
COVID, what
see
are your
our
last words?
right Super Hot Smackdown. We already talked about that in our next
Yeah.
episode. After our Super Hot Smackdown, we'll be talking Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
It's awesome. And I've always had some things that I've always said, like, if you don't like this movie or you think it's creepy, like, this is why it's not. So we'll go into that and we'll both have our opinions. And
Hmm.
I think the story is much more than people think it is. Some people just write it off because it's Tim Burton,
And
and some people love
claymation,
it
yeah.
because it's Tim Burton. Yeah. So we'll go into that. I think that'll be fun. It's one of my top 5 all-time favorite
Oh, it's an
movies.
amazing
So
movie. There is a lot of depth to it. There really is.
there
And
is.
I
And there's a
hope,
lot of background we can go into. I've seen every special on it. So
yeah, I haven't seen every special, but I've seen the movie more times than I can even count because it is such a fantastic movie and one of my favorites to go to.
absolutely. Yes, and it gives you that Halloween feel and those Christmas feels. It's just magical. We'll
Yes.
go into that next time. So
We will.
that's really it. I have no other parting shots. If you're watching this live on Wednesday or Thursday, our next guest on Hops News is Ivanhoe Brewing from Orlando. So I'm very excited about that. If you want to tune in and meet the owner,
They do a
and
lot
that's
of
it.
great like beers. The Wapal, I got the Tupac Shaporter you sent me. Like their beers are really really fun. I had their beer, the baseball themed beer, a few months ago, so I've had it already. I can't wait to try the array of beers that I have from them. I'm really really excited
Yeah,
to
and I'm
get
actually gonna
the brewery on.
I'm gonna be stopping by there again this week because they're doing like a whole thing this week of different releasing, like an Vienna
Yeah.
lager, and they just did a collab with like 3 other breweries. That's a Goza
Hmm.
that they just released. So they're doing a whole bunch of stuff this week.
Yeah, they
So
are. I've
very
seen
cool.
them, and
But that's about it.
they're pretty active as well, and I've been following them a lot. Again, I can't wait to actually eventually get to that brewery because it's emerging as one of my favorite Florida breweries, at least that I've been exposed to. Um, yeah. Other than that, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern on Hops News Facebook, Hops News YouTube. Check out a Marvel, DC, independent comic, pop culture, trivia encompassing all things nerdy and geek, us versus Hop Heroes. Give them a listen
And
to,
we will
give
be
them
dressed
a
up.
follow. We will be dressed up. Check out our Instagram, Hops Geek News. Check us out every Wednesday where you can find your fantastic podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Amazon, anything, Google Podcasts. We're on all of those platforms. As well as Hop Heroes, they're also on all those platforms. So give them a listen to as well. And really great dudes over there. Don't like them on Friday night, but really great dudes. And other than that, thanks for listening. Give us a like, subscribe, share, leave a review if you want. And we really
Love us.
appreciate it. You can find us on Hops News is what you will search when looking for our podcast. So we are there along with our fellow co-host Lucky and Feeling Lucky. So search Hops News on all your podcasts and cheers.
Can I say cheers with coffee?
Yes,
Cheers.
you can. Cheers with coffee.
Okay.
Coffee, beer, take it all. That's a drink.
Cheers.
This has been a Hops News production. You can find Hops News on all your favorite podcasts and social media platforms at Hops News. Cheers.